Hi, it's Peter Mead, and welcome to SEO Surgery APAC for Australia and Asia Pacific region. And we're back here for the second episode in 2019. And we have another 3 terrific guest SEOs. And while we're waiting for people to join on to the webinar, I'll firstly go through and introduce our terrific guests. Firstly, we have Aleyda Solis from Spain. She's an international SEO consultant. She's the founder of Orainti agency and speaker at least 100 plus conferences around the world. And she's also written a book. She's awarded the European Search Personality of 2018. And I've spoken with Aleyda several times, and it's such a terrific pleasure to have you with us, Aleyda. How are you? What's happening in SEO for you?
Oh, what is happening in SEO for me? A lot of things. What do you want to know specifically?
What's really hot for you now? What's working? What's the best
really
thing?
hot? I think that the hottest thing that I am seeing right now is the potential of progressive web apps. I have spoken already about this topic earlier this year, and I have been playing around and testing a few things with my own projects, and in order to validate and identify the opportunity for my clients. And I am very excited to see that we are finally reaching a point where we are going to be able to provide the same functionalities or similar functionalities than the native apps have in the open web world, right? And of course there might be challenges because when you implement web app, they are JavaScript heavy. A few of them will even rely on client side rendering. But I think that is a really nice challenge to have and an opportunity for improving the status of the web.
Well, that's terrific. Yeah. So progressive web apps. Okay, let's watch out for that. So thank you for that. I'm going to introduce Judith Lewis. And Judith, welcome to the show. So here we have Judith, who's an SEO, has been around for 20 years. She speaks at conferences all over the world. Judith judges the search awards all over the globe, as well as judging Chocolate, co-host of the Search Marketing Scoop podcast by Semrush with David Bain, and founder of the Decabbit Consultancyand. So Judith, welcome along, and thank you so much for joining us. And what's hot in SEO? What's working right now?
Well, the foundational stuff is always working in SEO. So, getting the fundamentals right has always worked and will continue to work, and people keep forgetting about that. So they forget about making sure that their website is optimized. They forget to make sure that they've actually done any research whatsoever at all on what topics their audience might want to hear about. And instead, they just sort of ramble on about what they think is important. And unfortunately, it means that they get no traffic. So the fundamentals, the foundational stuff in SEO is how it's always been hot and will always be hot. Kind of like matching your objectives to your results in a search awards entry. That's always been hot and it'll always be hot.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. Totally. Yeah, very useful info for people. So, James, we'll go straight across to you. James Norquay, so founder of Prosperity Media, awarded the best agency in Australia at the Semrush Marketing Awards, and also working in SEO since 2005. Driven over 25 million visitors, network of content sites. So started Prosperity Media in 2012, and you've now built a team. You've got a great team of, looks like 14 people working with you, and you've got Australian and US clients. Welcome, James. Known you for quite a while, and it's great to have you on the show. So, James, what's going on with SEO? What's hot? What's working? What's your take?
Yeah, basically the foundation stuff in Australian market is still crucial. I mean, you talk to big companies and they still haven't got the foundational elements right. I mean, when you talk to companies in the US, usually it's more advanced stuff. So like building out like long form content assets, using tools like ClearScope, things like that are pretty hot at the moment. Just ensuring that you've really building out a great content asset that's geared for SEO rankings, things like that. I find are driving some really good results in competitive verticals. Yeah, I mean, but I mean, everything, you just got to start with the basics. I mean, so many people, they want to go and test new things, but sometimes they just haven't got the foundations right, or they're just using a really bad CMS, or they've got the wrong idea, or they've had bad advice in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, you could spend a long time still working on the basics. I mean, the basics are everything, right?
It's funny because actually we see this trend, especially last year, of trying to chase up a little bit with the ongoing updates, right? And realistically, when you end up analyzing the reason of the updates, at the end is content quality, how the content matches the intent of the user, how, like, what is the relevance of the content. So it's indeed like always the most important, like it's like Pareto law, right? Like 80% of the things that can really move the needle will be about contents, relevance, link popularity, the foundations of SEO. Indeed.
Okay, well, we've got a few people joining onto the webinar. Welcome, everyone, and we've just introduced everybody. So let's dive straight in and dive into our first SEO audit of the day. So James Norquay is going to do an audit for creditcardcompare.com.au. James, what did you find? Is there something some advice we can give to these people to see if we can help them?
Yeah, so overall the website was pretty decent. I mean, they've been an online business since 2008. They've clearly been pretty active in the SEO and paid space. So yeah, I mean, like they've definitely invested a lot of time into this site because it's an authority website in the credit card comparison space. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a decent site. But that being said, there's still a few things after we kind of dug a little bit deeper to find some like technical SEO issues and just some content issues and areas they can improve. So yeah.
Terrific. Let's see what you got.
So my screen's working fine, Peter. Just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I can see your screen
fantastic.
perfectly. Yeah.
All right. So pretty much I've just gone through and listed like 19 things that we picked up. So the first one, we just did a quick little organic visibility analysis. Looked at where the site was in May 2018. They had about 91,000 organic visibility in SEMrush, and compared with now, they've dropped back a little bit. So I think with more data, so if we had GSC and we had Google Analytics access, we could kind of dig a little bit deeper. But I think some elements that we mentioned in this analysis are due to this drop, but with more data, we can kind of see more things that have gone wrong. So firstly, this is a big one. The website is not mobile responsive. So there's currently no use of viewport meta tag. There's a lot of mobile issues with the site. So if you test it on any like mobile testing tool, it'll tell you all the issues that'll come up. So fixing the basics, ensuring that you can get this site mobile friendly. When you look at different like mid-tier phones and lower tier phones, the site isn't responsive at all. So that's quite a big issue. It looks like they had a legacy site move in the past. So we did a quick crawl on Screaming Frog, and you can see that when they did the site move in the past, they had a lot of 302 redirects instead of 301s. So whoever did the site move, it'd probably be worth going back and checking what pages why were these 302, probably make them 301 redirects. So that's definitely a high priority. The next one, we did some analysis again on Screaming Frog, and we picked up 3 of their internal credit card pages were actually, they had no index tags on those pages. So this is definitely something interesting. At first, I thought maybe they'd stop using these cards as a partner, but as we dug deeper into the site, they're still comparing these cards all over the site. So these are content-rich pages, so probably worth getting the no index tag removed off those 3 key pages. Some of those category level pages that have no index tags on them, they probably added them for a reason. They could be low traffic pages. There's 140 broken internal links on the site. So once again, we did a little crawl on Semrush, and we picked up 140 broken links. So broken links are not good for usability. They're also not great from an SEO point of view. So something that the team probably needs to go in and look at those broken links one by one and just fix them. Once again, I think this is due to the old site move that they kind of did. Some pages on the site are loading quite slowly, so we did a little speed test on the pages using Semrush, and yeah, basically there was a couple of pages that were taking 4 or 5 seconds to load. So it's worth looking into those pages individually and working out how can we kind of fix up these pages from a speed point of view. 29 pages on the site had duplicate meta descriptions, so we can see that these are like money pages and whatnot. So you really want to ensure that you've got unique descriptions across the site. It's easy to do. There was no use of the geo tag on the website, so we did a quick crawl of that, and they haven't even got a geo tag on the website, so it's probably worth implementing that as well. There was even some pages that had missing meta descriptions. I mean, this is easy stuff to do. Like on one of their key pages, it was the Bendigo Bank credit card. They were missing a meta description. So basically, if you don't have a meta description, usually what happens is it's just going to pull any random text from the page. So something to definitely implement. It's easy to do. Another thing that we looked at the site now. It looked like it was currently using a default SSL. I noticed in the past I had a wildcard SSL on the site. So this is something to think about. Like, why did they move off the wildcard to the default? With a credit card type site, you'd probably want to opt for a wildcard SSL. Something that we thought was interesting. It'd be good to know what the team's decision was there. Looking at competitors, we did a quick little comparison of competitors. You can really see that this website, Credit Card Compare, it's not doing well in the mobile search rankings, whereas most of their competitors are doing quite well. I'd put it down to the site not being responsive and all those other mobile issues that we mentioned earlier. Also, when we looked at some content, we did a quick little comparison of content within the site. You can see for some of the rewards credit card pages, they weren't really doing as well as their competitors, whereas sometimes they were ranking well. For whatever reason, the rewards cards, they weren't going so well. So with a quick little look up on ClearScope, we found some other keywords that could potentially build out further content onto some of their rewards credit card landing pages. So something to definitely look in for the team. Looking into the speed of the website, once again, mobile was definitely an issue. There was a lot of scripts being pulled. There was opportunity to kind of compress images, etc., etc. So definitely I'd be investing some more time into speed. That being said, it looked like they'd have gone through and they've done some things right, but there's still opportunity to take it to the next level. Also, we had a quick little look at the link profile. It looks like someone had been doing some legacy link acquisition on this website. Whilst Moz had it at a 1 out of 18 spam score, digging through the anchor text distribution, it looked like someone had gone through back in 2011 and done some not so quality, some blogspot link building. So things like this, they're really not the best from a legacy point of view, and we've seen people get hit from old blogspot links. So even if they've been done many years ago, it's still worth checking up on those. Other little like lower priority things like no sitemap listed in robots.txt, not a huge impact factor, but just a basic SEO element. There was also some issues with the organization schema on the website. It wasn't complete. Don't know why they'd done that, but I had a quick little example with a competitor that had a more complete organization schema with the address listed. So that's something to think about. For whatever reason, there's no social proof on the website, so they didn't have any links to social media accounts. Maybe they just want to keep users sticky on the website and they're not updating their social media profiles, but definitely something to look into for this business. Also, I had a quick look at like some of the subdomains, the legacy subdomains on the website. I noticed that they still had a blog.creditcardcompare subdomain index that was pulling an error code on the website. So it's always worth going back and checking old subdomains and seeing if there's any opportunity to kind of fix an old redirect or fix up other old subdomains that are potentially causing issues. And finally, we just did a quick little accessibility scrape on Tenon, and yeah, they had quite a few issues. For a site like this, I'd say they're more like a mid to large type website in the finance space. Something to think about accessibility, but it's not a huge SEO factor. So yeah, I mean, that was some quick little bits and pieces for that business. Hopefully it was helpful.
Thank you, James. Wow, you've picked up a few things there, dug a bit deep, and excuse me. So I just wondered, did the other panelists, Aleyda, did you have any comments? Did you want to add anything on off the top of your head?
From what? Well, no, it sounds like a very in-depth analysis. Indeed, I hadn't had the chance to check the other websites, only the one I got, unfortunately. So
yeah. No worries. Judith, did you have any comments you wanted to add on or to what James had said?
I think I only took an extremely quick cursory look at the homepage, so that dashboard screen in Semrush, because obviously usually we use lots of tools, but Semrush gives you a really good one pager. And scrolling down to the links, because of course I love looking at people's backlinks. I was thrilled to see that they got a link from Hacking for Christ, because nothing says high quality backlink like hacking for anything. Really, yeah. I'm not sure how Jesus would have felt about hacking in his name. I'm not sure how that goes, but hey, got a link from there. So, doing something right.
Yeah, no, I think that business must have done some low quality SEO work in the past, potentially. They've outsourced it somewhere. It looks like quite a few years ago there was some not so quality links. But yeah, it's hard to know with this stuff. They could have already disavowed a lot of this stuff in the profile, but like there's good and bad. And this site does rank very well for some competitive terms. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but I definitely feel they need to go back and look at their link profile in more detail.
Yeah, sounds like good advice. Do some link profiling and start getting rid of some rubbish links. I've got another question here about, yeah, I mean, it's bread and butter SEO work, right?
Exactly.
I've got a question here about link building from our audience. And actually, I'll just ask the question, and then whoever wants to answer it. So the question is from Trupti, and link building DR or PR is important, or both elements are important. I'm not sure. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
So is link building DR or PR is important? Which one or both?
I think you'd probably want to be looking at domain rank from Ahrefs. Like, I mean, PR from Google, they haven't updated that in a very long time. Even Google came out and said, don't monitor PR. So I think you'd probably want to be looking at DR from Ahrefs, and then looking at like DA from Moz even. They're two pretty good metrics still, like from a link analysis point of view.
At the end, each like index tool, they came up with their own metric, trying to replicate a bit and provide an easy way to specify the value and a potential popularity value that a given page has, and what they can refer to you at the end of the day. So for me, it's like there's the thing, people who completely obsess about, page authority, I don't know, 65 versus 60, things like that. We cannot take these metrics at the end of the day because of this, as an absolute value, right? Like to provide an absolute value, but just to provide us a reference of what we are going to be able to obtain, and ponderate that and assess that versus the effort that is taking us to obtain that link, and based on that to assess and say, look, if it is really worthy for me to spend all this time in order just to bring that one single link of really low page authority or domain authority, or what should I prefer, a high volume or diversity of this level of page authority versus very few pages that might refer me a highest authority because they are located at a bigger property with a higher domain authority. This type of things, right? So you can establish a much better informed strategy that is also cost effective at the end of the day. But I don't think that this is meant to be like an absolute metric that should drive you crazy at night thinking at 65 domain authority, 60 or something like that. I remember many years ago, actually, when I started doing SEO, and there was this obsession about indeed the page rank metric that was provided in the Google bar, right? And I remember every time that Google updated that metric, like every 4 months or something like that, like everybody was like, oh my God, I became from page 1.3, page 1.4, whatever. Like, but my question was like, what does that even mean? Like, I am ranking better because that is what I really want to, right? Like, I don't care if I am ranking with 100 or 1 million links. Like, tell me if these links are actually helping me to rank, if they are actually helping me to bring traffic and achieve my results. So at the end of the day, that should be about it. Like, are these links actually helping me, providing me value, and allowing me to reach the results that I want?
And I think along that point too, of what Aleyda's just said, is the way that I assess a link is I look at the site and the amount of relevant traffic that is being driven to it according to Semrush based on the keyword. So when I buy links, and I freely say I buy links, but I don't just buy links. I don't buy site-wide links off of some poor quality, I was about to swear, some poor quality blog. What I'll do is I'll assess the value of their audience, and I'll see whether or not that audience is actually relevant to my client. If it's relevant to my client, I then use those metrics to give me an additional idea of what band they fall into with regards to what I'm willing to pay or the effort I'm willing to put in. If they don't rank for things that my client needs to be seen for, then there is no point in me buying links just for ranking, because ultimately that's a recipe for failure.
Yes, I would agree with that for sure. James, can I just go back to a little point you made during your audit about your geo-tagging?
Yeah,
and because we had a question here about. The question here is, how important is schema tagging? Is it picked up in Semrush Audit? Can you recommend a plugin? I don't know. How should people approach the geotagging, and why is it important?
With any schema, it's very important. In terms of plugins, there's quite a few WordPress add-ons. Depends what CMS you're using. If it's like an old school CMS, they might not have the functionality to kind of implement these different schemas that are out there. But it's very important schema. Structured markup, you've got organization, review schema, there's countless different schemas that you want to be implementing on your website, because if you don't have them, your competitors probably do. So it's only going to do positives for your business by implementing them. So
it's another indicator. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. Well, thanks so much for doing that audit. So we'll move straight on to the next audit. Judith Lewis is going to be auditing a site called justwines.com.au. Judith, apart from discovering lots of wine, what other SEO issues did you discover?
I had fun. There are two cheats in there that I'm not entirely sure if I should share, because it's inside information that I've gained from working in this industry. But let me share my screen, and I will
Take us through it.
Take you through. Yeah. Right. So I will start now. Hopefully you can see this.
We can see it. Great.
Excellent. That always helps because, that's the first big hurdle to overcome. And the second big hurdle to overcome is to know where to start. So we should always start at the beginning. The search result for Just Wines in Australia was nice. You can see that we've got great information being pulled through, the logo, information about where they're located. I checked them when they were open because, I'm like that. But do I really need to know that they're in Australia? Buy wine online in Australia at Just Wines. You could have put that somewhere else. You're also a .au domain. You could have put it as it clearly is twice in your meta description. So I think you're really hitting us over the head with where you are. It's fine. We don't need it anywhere that many times. Maybe a better title tag could be used here, something that's a little bit sexier, something that will make people want to come in. Right now, you're getting a little bit lost in a sea of everybody else. So I found maybe 8 or 10 places that are all ranking for buying online wine that are looking better as far as title tags and meta descriptions than Just Wines. But this is something where it's about content as it is as much about optimization. So we need to be understanding what people are looking for, as well as whether or not we've got sexy clickable links in search results. Because if your link's not clickable in the search result, it doesn't matter where you're ranking. No one's going to click you. If you look spammy, no one's going to click you. Also, here's one of those things I don't know if I should be saying. We could be using video. Maybe I shouldn't. Anyway, there are excellent opportunities in this space to be utilizing video for a variety of different things. And I think they have the right idea along the lines of, they've got some great blog posts about pairing wines and things like that. But there are the people who want to see these things are looking for very specific things. And you'll see in a minute, there's a little bit of a mismatch between what they're writing and what people are looking for. I did throw this through a few tools. This is a fun one. It's free, GT Metrics. It shows quite a long page load time. Now, normally, time to first paint is what we're most interested in, because it took a long time when I visited on a plugged-in connection, not Wi-Fi, on a dedicated line when it was low traffic. So I can't imagine what it would be like for someone who was not on a very high-speed line. And you can see here, Lighthouse is giving you a score of 1. At least you got 1. I mean, we all need at least 1 point, and you got it. So there's so many things here. You can see just from this, the first content, the first meaningful paint, actually. Let's look at that. So you can see at the bottom, it's a little fuzzy here because I've blown it up a lot, because it comes on a side panel to the right of your screen, as you saw earlier. But if you look at the bottom here, you can see how long it's taking before something pops up. And then you can see how long it's taking before it loads. And that's somebody waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for your website to load. And especially on mobile, it's super challenging and it's really not doing you any favors. Plus, Australia is not there yet, I don't think. But in the UK, I think almost all of my clients, from publishers to toy shops to pharmaceutical companies, are all on mobile first. And if you get there now, when that happens in the local market, that's going to be a massive boost to you. It's just going to make so much of a difference. Fun with crawling. I loved the way that I could crawl through search results. Thankfully, though, it's blocked by robots.txt, but I have to admit, I did stop crawling the site at 410,000 pages. So many wines. But you can see that Google has actually pulled up 17,900 pages, which is different from what Semrush has actually pulled up. You've also blocked Semrush. So Semrush is having trouble giving you meaningful results here on this very quick audit. You can see where it says 128 internal links are broken. They're not. they're actually 403s, and there are issues with blocking the resource on the side of SEMrush. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to do a really fast and easy analysis of the site, which means that we have to fall back on other more chunky tools to actually do it, like deep crawl and things like that. The search results. So this is where you type in site : and then your URL. So if you ever want to find a list of how Google sees you, site : and then no spaces, just wines.com.au, and it pulls up everything. And you can see here Fortified Wines, Heathridge Wines, buy wine of Heathridge Winery online. It's like, if you read it out, it sounds spammy. Heathridge Wines, buy wine of Heathridge Winery online at Just Wines. Oh my God. I used to write title tags like that back in the day. That was 10 years ago, people. 10 years. It's a little bit, we've advanced from there. So I looked at what people are looking for. People are looking for wine. They're looking for all sorts of different kinds of wine. What are you giving them? Pizza dough. Aren't you feeling hungry? And a great paella recipe and some good chicken cacciatore. What is really interesting here is you're trying to pull people in on recipes. You're not quite getting the link between the wine and the recipe, and I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, so if I ever need to find a good pizza dough recipe, I know where to go. But what are you actually ranking for? You're actually ranking for some wineries. And one of the things that I find in the wine vertical is wineries often don't rank for their own name. It's sad, but it's true. And I am on a mission to try to help them do this. But if you ever want to sell lots of wine, just, start a blog and write about wineries, and you'll outrank them and just, affiliate stuff. But you can see here that you've got some great rankings. Unfortunately, this was at the bottom of the page, but do you see this vegan wine one? I dug into it because I was like, vegan wine. Well, it is a thing because they use egg albumin and things like that in the wine to clarify. So I went there and I was like, how do I know this is? Oh, that really faint gray vegan wines that's smaller than the quote that's on every single page. Just Wines, trusted by Australian wine lovers to deliver millions of bottles every year. You can put that somewhere else, under your logo, somewhere else. I know this is usability, but seriously, if I've just come through from a search result, I am not seeing vegan wines fast enough for me to trust that this page is about what I want. And also, I'm not seeing it in the description. So because I'm not seeing that, it's a little bit confusing for me, and I'm not clear that this is what I want. However, at the bottom, fantastic description. This is the bottom of the page. So just to zoom in, you can see that they actually explain the importance of vegan wines. And you can see here that you can see what non-vegan elements. And I know people are like, what? Wine is made from grapes. What is it not vegan? This is why it's not vegan. But this is buried at the bottom of this page. And also, we feature a range of these wines on our online store. This is on your online store. Where were you putting this content? Is it now duplicate? Is it? I'm not going to swear. Anyway, please, this is not really useful at the bottom. Put this beautiful paragraph of actually useful information. Not that last line. Kill that last line. But the first paragraph, that whole top paragraph above the circle, keep it. It's beautiful. I want to see that at the top. It reassures me as a searcher. You know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. And you're not just feeding me a line. So it's UX, I realize. But from an SEO point of view, I can lead the horse to water, but I can't make the user stay or convert if you don't do these things on the page. There is so much money that you're leaving on the table. Like, this is what people are looking for. I know these search volumes are low, but you get enough of them and it's actually quite lucrative. Best wine with Chinese food, pizza, Sauvignon Blanc dessert pairing, pizza people, pizza and spaghetti. What? Why am I having to figure out how to pair wine with pizza and spaghetti? Really? Why are people searching for this? This is Australian search volumes. It's more distressing in the rest of the world how many people are looking for the best wine with Chinese food. It's the wine you like. Hot tip. You can see here, though, that in the blog, really fantastically, there are food pairings. But what they're not doing is they're not picking up on these these keywords here that people are actually looking for. Wine to go with pizza, what wine to drink with spaghetti, wine tasting dinner menu, things like that. Those aren't being picked up. They're being done slightly differently. And that way it's actually not being picked up. And I get that you're really smart wine people, but Noble Rot Wine's food pairing, in order to know that you want to pair Noble Rot wines with food, you have to know what Noble Rot wines are. If you know what Noble Rot wines, I try to say that 3 times fast when you're drunk. If you know what Noble Rot wines are, you're not going to look for food pairings. Anyway, this is the one I probably shouldn't be sharing, but calories in wine is a huge way to get visibility online. There's a huge amount of search volume. And if you're giving them, oh, I didn't put that screenshot in. If you're giving them low calorie wines and you've actually got an article on it, give them that information, give them what they're looking for, and they will stick around and they will buy. From a PPC point of view, these ads don't make me happy. And you have a 100% happiness guarantee. I am disappointed. However, your competitor does make me happy. To my door? I know. It's delivery. Delivery should be to my door. Duh. But it just makes it a little bit sexier, and it helps with conversion. And honestly, I really genuinely do love the blog. I know I've been a little bit like slaggy on it, but I genuinely do love the blog. You have some great stuff going on there. You're really thinking about it. You're really doing some great stuff, but you're just, oh, there you go. There's the screenshot. You're just not quite meeting the searcher needs. It's close. It's really close, but you just need to do that little bit of research to give them what they want. Sometimes we look at the competitors because, hello, what have you been doing? It's only when we lift up the skirts and look underneath that we find things like this. What have you done? What are these links? Well, your competitors have good links and we want them. So we want to see who's linking to who, and we can do that in the gap analysis. Your links, however, justwines.com.au. Oh, totes legit. Totes. Oh, I grew these legitimately. Do you see my organic links? I hope you don't kiss your mom with that mouth, though. You can see the SEO business directory. Tote legit. Also, please stop doing this. On the bottom of so many pages, this is just spam. It's not helping anyone, and I know it's probably in the template, but if you want to add value with a paragraph at the top, and add value with a paragraph at the top that's relevant to the page, not spammy duplicate content at the bottom of every page. It's helping no one. Except maybe your copywriters stay employed. That's it. That's me. That's it. That's how I normally end things. So there you go. I don't know if they want these slides ever.
Well, we'll link them on the page afterwards. But so okay, that was very colourful and interesting results you've got there for us, Judith. So actually, we had a question while you were doing your audit, and you mentioned about, specifically, there was one point there where you talked about some of these keywords. They could be opportunities, and what the question we got here is, does exact phrase keywords matter? And I
don't think it's the exact phrase that matters. It's Google understands semantically related terms, but what I think is the sentiment that matters. So you know where we had the example of Noble Rot wines for pairing. There's a lot of sentiment analysis that has to go in to understand that a Noble Rot wine is a sweet dessert wine often, and something like a Tokai. It would be easier for human beings as well as search engines to say great dessert pairings with Tokai. And Google will figure out that it's a Noble Rot wine. But the other way, where we're talking about multiple Noble Rot wines, it can be a little bit more confusing. The same thing with the Chardonnay example, where they've got Chardonnay pairing with dessert. Google can figure out that it's best wine to, well, it's not going to figure that out, but it's close enough to best wine to have with dessert. However, the closer the match, the more likely you are to rank higher up. All things being equal, Google understands it. But if somebody else has written the same article but called it best wines to pair with dessert, and you called it 5 desserts for Chardonnay aficionados, the person who called it something that matches the searcher's actual search term is going to get the ranking.
Yeah. So
It's
you're
not
not talking
essential.
about exact phrases, but you're talking about the kinds of phrases that have the keywords, but also are in a way that have the searcher intent where they're going to be doing a search.
Yeah. Always think about searcher intent. Think about what the user wants and then deliver that. Remember the example where I said, I wasn't really clear that it was a vegan wine page, because the thing that attracts your attention is the same quote that's on every page, and vegan wines was gray and smaller font. So it's a UX thing. I totally get that. But it's also a click through from Google, don't immediately see what I want, click back, click next result thing. So from an SEO point of view, if we don't keep them on page, we're running the risk of being perceived as being irrelevant.
Thanks so much again, Judith. So, James, did you have anything you discovered or anything you picked up on that you wanted to add a comment on that audit?
No, it looked really good. I think Judith makes a great point about the calories in wine. That's something that, especially where I live in Sydney and eastern suburbs, like everyone is health conscious, and you go to like the shops, you go to Harris Farm markets, everyone's jogging around. People are checking calories on everything. They're calorie counting. So like targeting those type of keywords is a lot of opportunity in Australia. Like everyone's health conscious, 100%. So that's a big one. And I think people would be more interested in the calories in wine rather than best pizza that matches wine, because I've never even thought about that. But
yeah, red meat, that is the typical one. Like what are the best wines for meat or for chicken or for fish, this type of thing. But for more day-to-day type of food, and at the end of the day, you want to enjoy a little bit wine any given day, for sure. That's true. Yeah.
And you should have seen the funny faces I was pulling as I was reading that off. I was like, really? Chinese food? Really?
No, but honestly, I have to say something. If there are two things, I believe, especially when it is looking to establish authority and attract links at the end of the day in a very scalable and reasonable, and that goes hand to hand with branding, right? On one hand, it's like in whatever industry you are, there are always opportunities of what is perceived to be the challenge, right? For example, many years ago, when I was working with a client in the financial industry, is the complexity, right? So let's create resources to make it so simple that you establish yourself as the source of information, to make it simple and easy to understand, right? In the case of wine, for example, it's perceived to be sophisticated and a little bit might be expensive, not for day to day. So it's great to show that there are options to enjoy it in a very good level quality to enjoy whatever type of food and have a better gastronomic experience while doing it. And then on the other hand, the other challenge that I perceive with alcoholic beverage is indeed weight gain, right? That doesn't help calories. So again, I believe that is an amazing idea of how to show that there are options for it, that not all wines are the same, and provide even a tool, resources, references, cheat sheets that you can refer to whatever type of food that you're creating. I am visualizing a type of even infographic or little tool that today I'm eating this. So this is your suggested wine, and this is the caloric intake. And so if you're in keto, these are the ones that you can eat. I don't. Hopefully, there's something for keto. Anyway.
There's some linkable assets there.
I will definitely link to that.
Yeah, and see, and please don't make an infographic, people. Just put the infographic down. But you can, like Aleyda said, you can make a really authoritative page that really makes it easy for people. They're like, right, what are we having for dinner tonight? Chinese. Let's look smart and look up what wine goes best with Chinese food. 90 people a month. People, seriously, get lives. Just drink what you like.
Aleyda, we need to move on to the next audit.
I will.
And we have Aleyda Solis, who's going to be auditing a website called dynamicwebtraining.com.au.
You're seeing my screen already, isn't it?
Yes, we have your screen.
Perfect.
Aleyda, did you find something to help these people?
Yes. Well, the thing is, and this is the thing, right? And I was asking before, Pete and Anton, is one question: why did they submit this website? Is did they ask for something specific, or what's going on with them, right? Realistically, I have to say the site is in general pretty good. If they were not necessarily in this industry, in this specific vertical, where they end up ranking and competing against very authoritative institutions, educational institutions, they might be like even achieving much more, I believe, right? So at the end of the day, this realistic, everything is relative in SEO, right? Like not only links, but also how well optimized you are and the type of effort that you need to do, right? Because you can see this dynamic web training, so they provide training and courses for technical type of areas. So you can see Microsoft, Adobe, a little bit of bookkeeping, but again, it's for online software. So when I started to check, like they had the basics. Okay, so take a look from a speed perspective. They are relatively well. From a mobile friendliness, they are using a responsive web design already, and they are not like truncating anything or replacing anything, eliminating. So again, I tried to dig a little bit further to see with other tools, like other data sources. And at the end of the day, they were in general in good shape, right? They also had a structured data implemented in the top pages, also in the product pages, in the courses pages. I have to say that they have, the educational organization implemented the structured data for it, and then they have the review aggregate. But if you see here, I think that they can do much more, because, well, they can specify further with each specific review, because they have tons of review, really good content, not only the aggregate. And then also we have, let me show you here, a specific structured data for courses that Google has also provided, and I had it over here just to show you. And of course, whenever I wanted to show you now, I'm not, here it is. So you can even specify further to provide even more specifications of the meaning of the content that you have there, and allow the results to be selectable and to be shown in a much more improved way, and to expand the visibility of the results in the search, right? So these are good, like nice to have and good options. When I crawl the website and try to identify like the most meaningful real issues, I have to say that there were a few, but no, not in a way that they are really challenging in an obvious way, at least, the current rankings. Like, for example, they have typical transactional website. They have an internal search result that will refer to this to this page, and this page is not being not indexed. So if we look at robots, meta robots here, they don't include it, and the way that they are avoiding the indexing of these pages right, is with a canonical tag pointing to the main search page, right? Ideally, the way to handle this in a much more straightforward way will be to meta robots no index any of this internal search page results, and also blocking the any crawling under the search query URL structure, which is not being done in the robots.txt. I checked also the robots.txt, and yes, they are included in a sitemap XML, and blocking all the areas that they don't want to go to crawl, but not this one. So this is just to cover yourself. I check, and you don't have anything indexed from internal search result pages right now in any case. And then from a canonicalization configuration perspective, with the paginations and under the blog, right? Yes, they are using pagination tags. However, they are canonicalizing everything to the main parent page, right? So, which is unnecessary in this case, because if you're already paginating here and adding and correctly configuring with the pagination tags, you're already specifying to Google that you have a series of pages like that are part of the same group, so you can self-canonicalize in every pagination page without any issue. So that is another aspect to improve. When I crawled the website, it was funny, because I actually used many crawlers to see if I was leaving something out, right? So you can see here a few crawlers that I use, and realistically also here allow me to share you. I use the site audit from Semrush, of course. So the not like super obvious errors, the ones that you could see before, like they were like, yeah, things just to cover a little bit your back. The one thing though that I didn't identify is that although they have a crawlable navigation, the way that they are actually linking internally to some pages or self-referring in a few pages, they are using hash, the hash in the URLs completely unnecessarily. We know that Google don't take into consideration this, but when you crawl the website, if, for example, take a look at the share of URLs that seem to be canonicalized, right? Realistically, not all of them are really canonicalized in a way that that you are using for example, a parameter generated URL that need to be canonicalized to the original URL without parameters to specify and refer the value, and that this page is also showing something different, right? Like in a different organization, in a different sorting, that you really are pushed, and you really need to use this type of internal linking to this pages with other type of parameter handling, right? This is not the case, right? In some cases, yes, because this goes to the specific area of the page of the reviews, for example, but in other cases, it's completely unnecessary, right? So directly link, please, you already have a relatively good navigation that is completely crawlable. Just link to the actual URLs without the hash at the end, just to make sure. When it is the reviews area or a specific area of the page, then it's okay, it's correct, because you really want to refer, it has a usability type of reason you want to refer the user directly here, but not in the other cases. And it's just like makes that the crawling might not be necessarily as straightforward, and it's completely unnecessary indeed. So from an HTTP status though, there are not obvious link error pages internally. However, I want to check externally linked error pages, or that at some point in the past were triggering errors, and now somehow they are probably right now being shown temporarily. It's something that we really need to take care of, and make sure that if at some point we eliminate any page, we 201 redirect to the new version or to the parent category if that version doesn't exist anymore. I did saw, for example, that in some cases that, yeah, they were, you see that they had this /AU unnecessary completely, because they are only targeted to Australia in any case. So for example, this page here, this page actually is not indexed, so it's okay, because it's not generating content duplication issues. However, take a look. However, it did seem that at some point, and right now actually it's 404, by the way, so it's actually non-indexable, but it did seem that it was bringing some links from external sources. So it's important that if you are not using it, if somehow your CMS generated it at some point, 301 redirected to the original homepage in any case, just to avoid any problem. And here it took my attention that they had this web design courses URL in the past. So again, if at some point you provided this course and you don't provide it anymore, yeah, it's showing a 404 here. Yeah, 301 redirected to the most relevant new version of this URL to avoid losing this former link popularity that they had. And then so I dig a little bit further to understand better why they might be like looking really for help, right? Because I was seeing like, oh my God, they are not in necessarily a bad shape, right? If we see the evolution of the rankings over time, also, it's like they haven't. This is the thing, and I believe that maybe this is the reason. Like they have been plateauing for a while already. And actually, last year, at the beginning of last year, there were some of these websites that lose visibility in one of this quality updates. At some point, they were called so in the phantom updates, right? When I go and see their pages, it's like they are not really like theme pages, theme content pages. It's not a problem that they are not featuring enough content. But let's remember one thing: at the end of the day, it's about context. Again, right? It's not just because we are not necessarily showing little content or poor content or content that doesn't connect very well with the actual final query. But because we are in a bigger ecosystem, and maybe our competitive the competitors that we are going against are even better than us. So it's not necessarily that we were deranked or that they were even they actually improved their own rankings because they were providing much more quality content or in general even an overall status, an authoritative status than us, right? So you can see here they have been having losses and gains, but nothing particularly shocking. So I went and checked actually how they were doing versus some of their top competitors, right? And realistically, this is the thing, right? They are ranking more or less, and I actually exported an Excel to make it easier. They are ranking more or less well, but for more granular queries. For those that are more competitive, like more generic, like for example, Excel trainer or Excel courses, right? They are not ranking as well as they could, right? Also, we can see that there are some more localized queries that they might be even try to focus on more, because realistically the type of ranking that they have already here is already better, and there are not so many competitors for this specific more granular queries that indeed have a little bit less of search volume, but might be even more relevant for them to target. When I analyze them then against their competitors, because I really wanted to understand why they were not ranking that well for this particular most competitive terms, I confirmed what I was suspecting, right? Like for example, for Photoshop course, and this was one of the pages that I think that we saw before. This one, right? It's not because they are lacking value or that they don't have enough content, right? But if we check and take a look at which are the websites, the pages that are actually ranking in the top positions for this term, it's because they are very highly authoritative, right? Like the domain authority, speaking about link popularity metrics and authority metrics, like domain authority, page authority of these top ranked pages is huge. They are like proper educational institutions, like universities, right? So of course they have all of this very authoritative type of level that unfortunately our website here cannot compete with, right? So realistically, I have to say, like, if you still need a little bit more time to work on in order to be able to rank for this type of terms, very generic terms like Photoshop courses. Realistically, when I check from a content perspective, right, I went and checked that actually their content was in general pretty well. Of course, they can expand, they can add more specific terms, address more specific queries regarding each topic, but it's not bad. It took my attention that in some cases they were actually outranked by this website, Odyssey Training, that it seems that is their top competitor, like the one that have a more like similar type of business model than they have. And shockingly, when I went to check this website, I was actually blocked. It seems that they have a very strict IP blocking type of rules going on, right? And of course I have a Spanish IP, so they are blocking me. So yes.
Aleyda, do you have just a final takeaway from that? Because we're just fast running out of time for the webinar. You've come up with you've come up with so much stuff, and much for these people. But can you give us a final takeaway there?
Yes, of course. So if you see this other player, like the one that they are actually like having their own business model and are ranking them, and this is their cash version, because I couldn't see the live one. It's not that, again, they're showing more content than them. It's not a content matter, but it's a link popularity matter for them, I'm afraid. And if you can see, they only have 157 referring domains, a little bit more than 1,000 links. So if I were them, I will leverage much more their blog. They already have a blog, but if we see here is a blog that they end up updating once per month, again, I will leverage this much more. I will look for a real content marketing outreach strategy to expand and improve their link popularity, especially because they are not have like critical super painful technical and content issues, but they are not really attracting the type of links that they need in order to rank for this very highly competitive queries against universities sometimes.
That's, I would totally agree with that. Thank you so much for that information. They need to get onto their content marketing and start making some linkable assets on their site. And yeah, so look, we are out of time, and you've come up with so much more than I thought you would have, Aleyda, on that site.
No problem.
So,
yeah, I have to say, sorry if I expanded so much, but since there are not so obvious issues or problems with this site, I needed to, take people to see that it's not like I am slacking here, not actually taking the time to actually see the problem.
When would Aleyda slack off? Thank you so much for joining us. That's amazing. Thank you also, James Norquay, for joining us. Really appreciate what you did for us. And Judith, amazing again to be with you on webinar. And until next time, we'll see you again same time next month. Other than that, we'll say everyone have a great day, have a great evening wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.